right, in this section we're going to talk about point slope of an equation. Point slope form is when you're given a slope and point on the line to write the equation of your graph. The formula for point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1 when you're given m and your point x1, y1. So let me show you an example. M equals 4, and it's going to go through the point 5, 1. So remember, this is x1 and y1, and this is your m. So you would do y minus 1 is equal to 4, which is your slope, times x minus x1. So distribute the 4. Y minus 1 is equal to 4x minus 20. Add 1 to both sides. Y equals 4x minus 19. And yeah, that's all there is to it. The hard part's going to be when you guys have fractions, and there's a lot of fractions on your homework. So let's do one of those. So I always like to write my formula down so I don't mess up. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So I'm going to go the slope of 4/9, and I'm going to go through negative 8, 8. Remember, this is x1 and y1. So I have y minus 8 is equal to 4/9 times x minus negative 8. So the first thing I want to do is change this to positive because a double negative makes a plus. Then I'm going to distribute my two fractions. 4/9 times x is 4/9 x plus 4/9 times 8. So let me show you how you do that. 4/9 times 8/1, because you always put a whole number over 1. Multiply 8 times 4 is 32. 9 times 1 is 9. So you have 32/9 equals, and you bring down your y minus 8. So that wasn't too bad. Now comes the hard part. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Now remember, you're adding it to your whole number because it doesn't have a variable. So instead of multiplying by 8, I'm now adding an 8. So let me show you what that looks like. You have 32/9 plus 8/1. So when you add fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Of 1 and 9 is going to be 9. So this is times 9, and this is times 9. 8 times 9 is 72. If I'm staying the bottom stays the same, so does the top. So now I'm going to add 32 plus 72 is 104/9. So now this cancels out. Y equals 4/9x plus 104/9. So it wasn't that hard, but it's not easy either. Okay, so let's look what happens when we have just 2 points. Now remember, to use point slope form, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. I have to have a slope and a point. If I only have 2 points, then what I want to do is first find the slope. Remember slope? Change in y over change in x. Always do your y's on top. 11 minus 13. X is on bottom. 3 minus 5. 11 minus 13 is negative 2. 3 minus 5 is a negative 2. A negative 2 divided by a negative 2 equals 1. Now remember, it doesn't matter which way you start. If you'd have done 13 minus 11, you'd have gotten 2. If you'd have done 5 minus 3, you'd have gotten 2. 2 over 2 is still equal to 1. So now I have my slope, but I have 2 points. So you just pick one. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I always like to pick the smallest one or the one with no negatives because let's be honest, no negatives makes things easier. So let's use 311. So we're going to use our point slope form and take this. So we have y minus 11 is equal to 1 times x minus 3. Now, distribute the 1 is just x minus 3. And then I add 11 to both sides. And I get y equals x plus 8. Now, remember this is slope-intercept form. Let's talk about standard form. Remember standard form? I don't know why my voice went up like that. Is when you have the x and the y on the same side. So if I have y equals x plus 8, and I wanted it in standard form, I need to move the x over here. So you just subtract it. Minus x. So you would have negative x plus y equals 8. Let's try another one of those. So, negative 5, 0, and 0, 3. First, we find our slope. Change in y over the change in x. 0 minus 3. Negative 5 minus 0 is negative 3 over negative 5, which is 3/5. Pick a point. I'm going to pick this one because there's no negatives. Write my point slope form and plug it in. Y minus 3 is equal to 3/5 times x minus 0. That makes it easy too because I'm multiplying 3/5 times 0. So now I have y minus 3 is equal to 3/5 x. Add 3 to both sides. Y equals 3/5 x plus 3. And if I was going to write this in standard form, okay, here's this thing about standard form. You don't ever want to have a fraction in standard form. When we did the other one, there was no fraction in it, so we didn't have to worry about that. But on this one, I have a fraction. I need to get rid of that. So this is slope-intercept. And that's okay to have a fraction. For standard, you want to multiply everything times 5 to get rid of that fraction. So this gives you 5y equals 5 times 3 is 15. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And 5 times 3 is 15. So then you would subtract the 3x. Negative 3x plus 5y equals 15. Now, to be perfectly honest, they don't actually want you to have a negative number in the front. So what you would do is you would divide each thing by -1. and you would get x minus 5y equals negative 15. The previous one, same thing. We would divide by negative 1. X minus y is negative 8. And that's just because they don't want you to leave a negative in front. Does this answer the same thing? Yes, but this is more mathematically correct. Okay, the very last thing is I want to write an equation of a line that is going through 8, 2, and is parallel to 7x minus y equals 2. So remember, what do we know about parallel lines? They have the same slope. So the first thing I need to do is solve this for y so I can find my slope. So 7x minus y equals 2. Subtract 7x, negative y equals negative 7x plus 2. Divide by negative 1, and y equals 7x minus 2. So my slope is 7. My point is 8, 2. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That looks really close to being an x. That's why we do cursive, and I haven't been doing that. So now I've got y minus 2 is equal to 7 times x minus 8. So y minus 2, 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 8 is 56. Add your 2 to both sides. Y equals 7x minus 54. And there is your equation of your line that is parallel to this.